Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. The Escape. Wade Watts sighed, the sound lost in the cramped confines of his hideout, a decommissioned van nestled in the shadow of stacks upon stacks of trailers that soared into the sky. It was a place of refuge in the chaotic sprawl of the Oklahoma City trailer park, a sanctuary where he could immerse himself in the oasis and forget the world's attempt to crush his spirit. The year was 2045, and Earth had become a battleground for survival, with environmental disasters and social unrest as its relentless foes. Wade's mind often wandered back to his childhood, to the days when his mother would set him up with the oasis as a virtual babysitter while she worked tirelessly. He remembered the awe of creating his first avatar, a gateway to a new world where he was free to explore without the constraints of his reality. Those early adventures in virtual reality simulations like Sesame Street were more than just games. They were his education, his escape, his life. The van, his bat cave, his fortress of solitude, had become his personal haven, meticulously soundproofed with styrofoam egg cartons and carpeting, safeguarding his privacy and his connection to the oasis. "Hello, Parzival." The oasis greeted him, its voice a familiar comfort in the solitude of his van. "Your last adventure was quite thrilling. Shall we embark on a new journey or revisit one of your favorite realms today?" Wade, feeling the weight of his reality bearing down on him, responded with a heavy heart. "Let's go somewhere new, somewhere peaceful." The oasis system, understanding the subtle nuances in Wade's voice, transported Parzival to a serene forest glade. The sweet scent of wildflowers mixed with the earthy aroma of pine enveloped him, as a gentle breeze whispered through the leaves, carrying the soft symphony of nature's song. The forest floor was a tapestry of moss and ferns, and as Parzival walked, the touch of the cool, damp earth beneath his feet grounded him in this tranquil escape. Birds chirped from the branches above, and the occasional rustle in the underbrush hinted at the presence of unseen creatures, adding a layer of mystery to the forest's charm. Sunlight danced through the leaves, casting dappled shadows that played on Parzival's skin, while in the distance, the melodic sound of a stream promised a hidden sanctuary just beyond sight. As he ventured deeper, a sense of foreboding crept into the idyllic scene. The path ahead seemed to darken, and the air grew still, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. It was a subtle reminder that in the oasis, beauty and danger were often intertwined, and the quest for the hunt begins. Parzival's avatar materialized in the virtual world, and he took in the bustling streets of Ludus, the planet where gunters like him hung out. His eyes scanned the chat windows and forums, searching for any clues about the Easter egg hunt. Suddenly, Ake's voice chimed in through the comms device. "We need to get moving, man. We can't let those corporate goons from IOI get their hands on it." Parzival nodded vigorously. "I've already started researching. I think I know where to find the first clue." Without another word, Parzival and Ake set off on their quest, diving headfirst into the unknown dangers and wonders of the oasis. As they navigated through the digital crowds, Parzival's mind raced with possibilities. Ayak nodded, his avatar's face serious. "But Ludus is huge, and the clue could be anywhere. We need a plan." Parzival pulled up a holographic map of Ludus, dotted with landmarks and quest markers. "We'll split up. You take the northern hemisphere, and I'll search the south. We'll cover more ground that way." "Got it," Ake replied. "And if either of us finds something, we message the other immediately." They fist bumped, a gesture that sent ripples through the virtual air, and set off in opposite directions. Parzival's avatar sprinted past virtual schools and playgrounds, his eyes peeled for anything out of the ordinary. Hours passed, and the search seemed futile until Parzival spotted an old, abandoned arcade tucked away in a corner of Ludus that few visited. The sign above the door read, "Halliday's Arcade." "This has to be it," Parzival whispered, his heart pounding with excitement. He pushed open the door, and the sound of retro video game music filled his ears. Inside the dimly lit room was lined with rows of vintage arcade machines, each one a gateway to the games that had captivated Halliday's youth. Parzival moved through the arcade, his fingers brushing against the controls of games that had been silent for decades. At the far end of the room, a lone machine flickered to life as he approached. The screen displayed a single line of text, a riddle that hinted at the location of the copper key. Parzival's pulse quickened. The hunt was truly on now. With a determined grin, he set to work, the sounds of the old arcade echoing around him as he began to unravel Halliday's first-rate puzzle. Uncovering clues. Wade, known as Parzival in Oasis, stood at the edge of the vast forest on Ludus. He stepped forward, the digital ground crunching under his avatar's boots. "All right, Tomb of Horrors, here I come," he muttered. The clues he had gathered, the limerick, the references to the old D&D module, it all pointed here. He wasn't alone in his quest. Ake, his best friend and fellow Gunter, and Arthremis, the fierce competitor, were also searching for the same thing. The trees gave way to a clearing, revealing the Tomb of Horrors. "Okay, Essererak, you ancient demi-lake," Wade whispered. "Let's see what secrets you're hiding." Inside the tomb, Wade navigated the winding corridors, avoiding deadly traps and puzzles. As he turned a corner, a faint glow caught his attention, a pedestal in the center of the room upon which rested the copper key. His heart raced. He was one step closer to claiming Halliday's Easter egg. Arthremis emerged from the shadows, her eyes fixed on the copper key. "Looks like we've got ourselves a little competition," she said. Their exchange was interrupted by Ake's arrival. "I did it! I found it!" he exclaimed, joining Wade and Arthremis. The three gunners, now united by their quest, decided to leave and plan their next move. Together they left the Tomb of Horrors, ready for the next challenge. They knew the road ahead was fraught with peril, but the copper key was the first piece of the puzzle, and they were determined to see it through. As they emerged from the darkness of the tomb into the light of Ludus, they shared a look of determination. The quest for Halliday's Easter egg was more than a game now. It was a battle of wits and wills, and they were in it together. Corporate threats. Wade felt the pressure of the situation as he sat in his dingy apartment, the reality of IOA's threat looming over him. Despite Sorrento's tempting offer, he was resolute in his decision. "You can't buy me," he muttered to himself. His avatar, Parzival, was now a target in both the real and virtual worlds. Logging into Oasis, his refuge, he was greeted by Arthremis's avatar, her digital expression serious. "We have to stay vigilant," she insisted. "The Sixers are relentless." Their meeting was interrupted by an alert from Ake. "Alert, Parzival. The Sixers have infiltrated Ludus." In the ensuing chaos, Parzival evaded the Sixers' relentless pursuit. He had prepared for such a moment, having developed a countermeasure program designed to disrupt their avatars. As he deployed the program, the Sixers' avatars began to malfunction, giving him a momentary advantage. Yet, he was aware this was only a stopgap. The Sixers, IOI's digital army, would persist in their quest to dominate Oasis. The struggle was far from over. Parzival realized the importance of solidarity. It was time for him, Arthremis, Ake, and the rest of the Gunters to come together to face the corporate giant. United, they would defend their digital home and secure a future of their own making. As the digital dust settled, Par surveyed the landscape of Ludus, now littered with the remnants of Sixer avatars. The countermeasure had worked, but it was a fleeting victory. He knew that the Sixers, with their vast resources, would regroup and return with even greater force. The time had come to leave the solitary confines of his apartment and seek out the wisdom of the High Five. Together, they would devise a strategy to protect the Oasis and ensure that the freedom of all users remained intact. The battle lines were drawn, and the next move was theirs to make. Parzival's resolve hardened. This was not just his fight anymore. It was a battle for the soul of the virtual universe. shifting dynamics. The atmosphere in Oasis was charged, a silent testament to the gravity of their quest. Parzival, his avatar's armor dimly lit by the arcade's glow, stood with Arthremus and Ake. "We can't let a Yoi win," Parzival declared. Arthremus gave a firm nod and Ake readied for action. The challenges ahead were daunting, yet their resolve was unyielding. They pressed on, aware that the eyes of both friend and foe were upon them, each step forward a defiance of the Sixers' looming threat. As they navigated the virtual landscape, the silence between them was palpable, each lost in their own thoughts of what lay ahead. The stakes were higher than ever, and one misstep could mean disaster. Still, they pushed forward, driven by their determination to claim the Easter egg and ensure the Oasis remained a sanctuary for all its users. Desperate measures. The news was grim. IOI's relentless pursuit threatened the very essence of freedom within the Oasis. "We need to act now," Parzival declared, rallying his friends. "If IOI seizes control, the Oasis as we know it will cease to exist." Arthremus, resolute and unwavering, agreed. "We must divulge everything, every secret, every strategy. The second gate's location, the method to obtain the crystal key. Nothing can remain hidden if we are to thwart IOI's plans." Ake, the ever-cunning tactician, proposed a daring countermeasure. "Wade, your expertise with macros is unparalleled. Devise something unexpected, something to give us the upper hand." As Wade set to work, the virtual lines of code cascading before him, he initiated a lockdown. "This should give us some breathing room," he announced. Meanwhile, in the stark reality of his impoverished existence, Wade grappled with the pressures of overdue rent and the escalating cost of survival. Yet, these concerns paled in comparison to the impending doom that loomed over the Oasis. Shoto's voice cut through the silence, a reminder of their shared resolve. "In Doto's honor we fight. Fear will not hold sway over us." Strategizing in silence, the group contemplated their next move until Arthremus unveiled her ace. "I've infiltrated IOI's network. A backdoor. It's fraught with risk, but it's our best shot." Ake's grin was palpable even in the digital realm. "Trust Arthremus to be ahead of the game." With newfound determination, Wade rallied the group, igniting a spark of rebellion. "We've got one chance at this," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos that threatened to engulf them. "IOA has shown their hand. They've turned the Oasis into a battleground, and we're the last line of defense." The group's avatars, once mere pixels and data, now stood as beacons of hope against the encroaching darkness of a UI's tyranny. With Arthremus's backdoor as their entry point, they launched their assault on IOE's digital fortress, a symphony of keystrokes their weapon and unity their shield. The battle for Oasis was not just beginning, it was already raging, and they were at its heart. Infiltration. Wade's heart pounded as he sat in the dim light of his hideout, the glow of the computer screen casting shadows on his determined face. He had one chance to pull this off, one chance to infiltrate EOE and help save the Oasis. His fingers danced across the keyboard, entering the access codes. "This has to work," he muttered to himself. Inside IOI, Wade, under the alias Bryce Lynch, moved with purpose. He had altered his financial records to become indentured, a risky move that now gave him access to the company's intranet. "It's now or never," he whispered, plugging in the flash drive he had smuggled in. The data transfer began, information flowing like a river of light into the small device. With the data secured, Wade quickly disconnected the flash drive, his heart racing as he heard the distant sound of security patrols. He couldn't afford to get caught now, not when he was so close. Slipping the flash drive into his pocket, he made his way out. He arrived at an abandoned warehouse where Aek, Shoto, and Arthremes were waiting. "I got it," he announced, holding up the flash drive. Their eyes lit up with hope, the first genuine emotion they had felt in days. Together they pored over the data, uncovering secrets that IOI had tried so hard to keep hidden. They now had a fighting chance to beat the Sixers to the third gate and claim the prize that would change their lives forever. As they delved deeper into the files, they discovered plans that revealed the Sixers' strategy to control the Oasis. It was more than just a race to the third gate. It was a battle for the soul of the virtual world. Wade felt a surge of responsibility, knowing that the outcome of this fight would define the future for millions. They strategized late into the night, each bringing their unique skills to the table, determined to outsmart the Sixers and protect the Oasis. The final battle. The golden rays of the Oasis sun glinted off the towering spires of Castle Anorak as Parzival, clad in his avatar's armor, stood ready for the battle that would decide the fate of this virtual world. Beside him, Arthremus, Ake, and Shadow readied their mechs, the air crackling with anticipation. "Today we fight not just for the egg, but for the soul of the Oasis," Parzival declared, his voice steady and clear. Arthremus nodded, her mech's metal joints hissing as she raised her beam weapon. "We'll give them everything we've got," she said, her eyes fierce with determination. The shield around the castle flickered and dropped, a signal that the final battle had begun. Sorrento's forces surged forward, a wave of Sixer avatars and gunships that darkened the sky. Ake's Gundam mech roared to life, its massive hands clenching into fists. "Let's show them what we're made of," he bellowed, launching into the fray. Shoto's Radine mech, gleaming gold in the light, loosed arrows from its bow, each one finding its mark among the enemy ranks. "For a Daito," he whispered, a tribute to their fallen comrade. The battle raged, the ground shaking with each collision of metal and burst of energy. Parzival fought with a fury he'd never known, his every move a dance of death for the Sixers as they swarmed around him. With a swift motion, he summoned his own mech, Leopardon, and the battle took to new heights. The Sixers, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of the towering robot, fell back in disarray. "Parzival, look out!" Arthremus cried as a gunship bore down on him. With a deft maneuver, Parzival dodged the incoming fire, and Ake's Gundam mech dispatched the threat with a well-aimed blast. The tide of battle seemed to turn in their favor when suddenly an explosion rocked the ground near Parzival. Sorrento had entered the fray, his avatar's mech armed to the teeth. "You think you can defeat me, Parzival? I am the Oasis." Sorrento boomed, his voice echoing through the battlefield. Parzival's eyes narrowed. "The Oasis belongs to no one person," he retorted, charging forward. The two mechs collided with a thunderous crash, locked in a struggle for the future of their world. As the fight intensified, Shoto's Radine mech took a hit, and he was forced to eject, leaving him vulnerable. "I've got you, brother!" Ake shouted, covering Shoto's retreat with a barrage of missiles. The battle seemed endless, but Parzival's determination never wavered. He focused on the strategy they had devised, a plan that relied on precision and the unique capabilities of their mechs. With a final desperate maneuver, he activated Leopardon's special feature, a blinding light that disoriented Sorrento's forces and provided a moment of chaos Parzival needed to strike at the heart of Sorrento's mech. Meanwhile, Shadow, now on foot, moved swiftly across the battlefield. His agility and combat skills were unmatched, even without the protection of his mech. He darted between the legs of the towering machines, planting explosives and creating diversions, his actions as critical as any mech's might. The High Five watched from a distance, their eyes tracking every move of their friend and ally. As the dust settled and the sounds of battle faded, they gathered in the war room, their faces lit by the glow of the holographic map. "We've pushed them back, but this is far from over," Parzival said, his gaze meeting each of theirs in turn. "Let's plan our next move." As the High Five convened, their avatar's armor still smoldering from the skirmish, they quickly assessed their resources. "We need to hit them where it hurts," Ake said, his voice grim but determined. Arthremus was already scanning the map, her fingers gliding over the holographic terrain. "There." She pointed to a critical power node that supplied energy to Sorrento's forces. If we take that out, we can weaken their defenses. Parzival nodded, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. It's risky, but it's our best shot. Shoto, can you lead the ground assault? Shoto, his avatar bruised but unbroken, stepped forward. I'm ready, he said, the resolve in his voice leaving no room for doubt. Then it's settled, Parzival concluded. We strike at dawn. Rest up. This is the calm before the storm. The high five dispersed, each member lost in their own thoughts, preparing for what could be their final stand in the oasis.